I'm going to start making a ring based on the little form that I made in a previous demo. So I'm going to be using De La Rosa bronze, which is a coppery bronze, which I absolutely love. It's not super copper, but it's just kind of like this golden copper. And it's just such a pretty color when you first look at it. So I am adding, I've already got my olive oil and I added a little bit of water to this earlier. So it may be a little dry. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to put I've got these 5-card thick, 5 cards on each side. I've already got my roller so that it's got some olive oil on it. And then you start out with an elongated sort of lump first, and then start rolling it out. Now it wants to stick to it just a little bit, but you can just roll in these directions and then it's okay. I'm also going to use this stamp. This is one of my favorites. It's a pretty deep stamp, but all you need is just a spray or 2 of water, and that should do it. So now I'm going to push these just a little bit closer because this is going to be, I want to sort of balance on these cards. So now I center it, push down. If you want to make your texture a little deeper, you can also take a card away on either side. And I'm going to just do one of these. Just what the heck. I'm going to make it, it's not perfect, but it's got a really interesting sort of effect to it. I love scrolls like this. It just looks very Victorian. I think it's great. Now you need to cut. So you want to do a little bit of pre-planning too, because this, you always want to make sure that you've got enough to wrap around. And this, you don't want to cut it too short. This is just matching. I just wrapped this piece of paper around so that it was just matching. And now I know how long this is going to need to be. I'm going to go a little bit longer on either side, but this is what I'm going to be wrapping it around. But now I have to cut it. And so you've got a couple of different things that you can use. You can use your X-Acto and you can use a ruler, or I've got one of these rulers. They look like a tissue blade, but this is not. And I'm going to just sort of wing it here. I'm going to slice this just going across, just like I'm cutting dough, and cutting that way. And then I'm just going to sort of eyeball it. If I want to, I can turn it around this way so that it's a little bit more comfortable for me to see horizontal. And I'm going to make it just a little bit thicker than what I normally would think. You have to remember, it's going to shrink just a little bit. So it's supposed to shrink somewhere between, I'd say, 11 and 14% or so. Just be very careful that you don't hurt your Teflon, which is the stuff below. Here's all my extra. I'm going to immediately put that into the plastic with my other stuff and wrap it up so that it stays put, stays hydrated. And now this is the tough part, because you have to first figure out about how much you need. So I'm going to probably go just a little bit further here. I'm going to cut this part off and this part off. This is going to be just a little extra that I don't want. And you could taper this. You could change the outside edge if you wanted to. It does not have to be a full band that goes all the way around. Also know that I am doing 2 sizes above my normal size. I put this through a size 9 because it's a band and it needs to go over your knuckle, and that is pretty important. So you can use the X-Acto to do this. You can use the needle to do this. I just prefer to try and wrap it around with my fingers. So now you're trying to just get it as parallel as you can. So this is the tricky part too, because you have gravity that is kind of working against you. But now I'm going to go very, very carefully, and this is where they overlap. So now what you do here, and you see this is where it is overlapping. I'm not going to do a cut that goes in this direction. I'm going to do a cut that goes across. It's sort of a beveled cut. So you can kind of rock your blade. You can take this part off here and set it down, set it aside. And hopefully it hasn't stuck too much to what was there before. And then you just have to be very, very careful because I have to remove this side and get the clay out from underneath. And then very, very gently work them so that they are together. And you can kind of squish them with your hands like this. So now you're going to use slip to put them together. And you can do this a couple of ways. I've got this thing of slip right here, and I have, this is how much I like to have on hand. There's a good amount in here. So I'm going to set this way, and I'm going to wet the brush first. Actually, I'll just put it all in the slip here. This slip is very pasty right now, which is good. But now you can take this and be very, very careful. And you can lift up just a little bit. And then you can brush this paste right along the edge. And this is such a delicate operation right here. So I'm going to take then the very end of this and just kind of push it down just a little. You can also sort of score it just a tiny bit, and you can use the brush to swipe across, and this is sort of melding them together as well. And you can do some of this work after it's dried a little bit as well. You don't have to do this all when it's completely wet. What I will also do is when I get it so that it is mostly together, I'll also take this stamp and I will just sort of impress it right over top where this seam is. And you might have to kind of play with this just a little bit because sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. But I'm going to just press just a little bit into there. So hopefully now I've got texture all around, and this seems a little bit big. But now I'm going to let this sit. And then if you want to, you can start making other elements to go onto this, to attach it. As this is drying, you can start making other things. You can attach different elements to these rings when they're dry, and you'll attach them using paste. You just have to make sure that the paste is actually pasty and not too wet. And also, you have to think about this. This is a rounded form. So in order to make it so that it sticks, you can't just put a flat thing here on top of here. You may have to use a little bit of your emery paper. So if you have emery paper like this, you can take elements and you can sand the surface of it just a little bit so that it will have more surface area to stick to here. So if you were to just stick something flat without finishing the surface, then all you'll get is it's attaching at one point. So what you need is something just a little flatter. As well, you can take your emery board and you can, when you know that you're going to be attaching something to this, ooh, got a mess going on here. When you know that you're going to be attaching something, you can also file just a little bit off of one of these edges so that you have a little bit more surface area to stick it to. But for right now, I'm just going to stick with this rounded form and set it upright so that it will dry. And then when it's done, you can squeeze to get just a little, to warp the paper just a little bit. And then you should be able to kind of twist the ring off of here, but definitely let it dry for a couple of hours. And if you have something that's quicker, then like a hair dryer or a mug warmer, then it will happen a lot quicker for you. So hopefully this will help and you'll make many really cute rings using this method.